Have you ever wondered why certain people seem to take up space in your mind, even when you wish they wouldn't? You move on with your life, get busy with new experiences, meet new people. Yet they linger, like a ghost from the past, resurfacing in quiet moments. Carl Jung believed that these recurring thoughts are not random. They are signals from the unconscious, urging us to look deeper. The human mind is not simply a machine that processes logical information and discards what's unnecessary. It holds on to what is emotionally charged, what is unresolved, what still has meaning, sometimes against our will. If someone is constantly appearing in your thoughts, it might be a sign that there is a hidden psychological connection between you, something that remains unfinished within the depths of your psyche. Jung's concept of the collective unconscious suggests that we are all connected by an invisible network of shared experiences, symbols, and emotions that go beyond the individual. Some people enter our lives and imprint themselves onto this deeper part of us. Their presence in our thoughts is not just a memory, it is a message. Sometimes these recurring thoughts are tied to an emotion we haven't fully processed. It could be love, regret, admiration, or even resentment. But no matter the emotion, the fact that this person remains in your mind means that your unconscious is still holding on to them for a reason. The mind does not replay what is meaningless. It fixates on what carries weight, on what needs to be acknowledged. And then there's the question of unfinished emotional energy. When relationships, encounters, or even fleeting moments carry a strong emotional charge, they leave an imprint. The unconscious does not operate on time the way the conscious mind does. It doesn't care if it's been months or years. If something was unresolved, it remains active beneath the surface, quietly influencing your thoughts and emotions. Have you ever heard a song that instantly transported you back to a moment, a person, a feeling? That's because the mind stores experiences in emotional clusters, and a single trigger can bring everything back. If someone remains in your thoughts, it might be because the emotional thread connecting you to them was never fully cut. But it goes even deeper than that. Some people stay in our minds not because of who they are, but because of what they represent. The unconscious mind speaks in symbols. It associates people with lessons, desires, and even wounds from the past. Sometimes, the person you can't stop thinking about is not just an individual. They are an archetype, a reflection of something bigger within you. Maybe they embody a deep longing, an unresolved pain, or a missing piece of your own personal story. Jung believed that our psyche holds on to these figures because they are tied to our growth. Until we understand the role they play in our unconscious, they will continue to resurface. The real question is, what is your mind trying to tell you? Now that we've explored why certain people occupy your thoughts, let's go deeper. What if the way you see them is actually a projection of something within yourself? Have you ever felt an overwhelming attraction or an inexplicable resentment toward someone without fully understanding why? Maybe you idealized someone, placing them on a pedestal, only to later feel disappointed when they turned out to be just as flawed as anyone else. Or perhaps you've met someone who irritated you for no apparent reason, triggering emotions that seem disproportionate to the situation. Carl Jung believed that these intense reactions are often not about the other person at all. They are about you. They are reflections of hidden aspects of your own psyche, projected onto others like a movie screen. This is the essence of psychological projection, the unconscious act of attributing to others the traits, emotions, or conflicts that we fail to recognize within ourselves. Jung explained that the human psyche is made up of both the conscious self, the part of us we are aware of, and the unconscious, which contains everything we repress, deny, or fail to integrate. When we encounter someone who strongly occupies our thoughts, it's often because they mirror something within us that we have not yet fully acknowledged. This could be an unresolved fear, a hidden desire, or a quality we refuse to see in ourselves. For example, if you constantly think about someone who embodies confidence and charisma, it may be because deep down, you yearn to develop those traits in yourself. On the other hand, if you feel an irrational dislike for someone, it could be because they reflect a part of you that you struggle to accept. The more we refuse to acknowledge certain aspects of ourselves, the more power they have over us, and the more we project them onto others. The shadow, as Jung called it, is the hidden, often darker side of our personality. The emotions, desires, and impulses that society or our upbringing have taught us to suppress. We like to believe we are fully self-aware, but in truth, a large part of who we are operates beneath the surface. When we meet someone who resonates deeply in our psyche, they may be activating a part of our shadow. This is why certain people seem to haunt our thoughts. They represent something we need to integrate, something we are subconsciously trying to process. The mind doesn't fixate on random people. It fixates on those who serve as mirrors, whether we recognize it or not. The real reason someone is constantly on your mind might not be about them at all. It might be about an aspect of yourself that is waiting to be uncovered. But projection doesn't just apply to individuals. It can shape our entire worldview. The way we see others is filtered through the lens of our own internal conflicts. If we carry deep-seated insecurities, we may assume others are judging us. If we struggle with self-worth, we may believe others are superior. If we have unresolved wounds from the past, we may project them onto present relationships, reliving old patterns without realizing it. Understanding projection is crucial because it allows us to reclaim the parts of ourselves we have unknowingly given away. The people we obsess over, admire, or resent are often holding up a mirror to something within us. The key is to stop looking outward for answers and start looking inward. So, what happens when these projections are tied to deep emotional bonds? When the attachment is not just psychological, but emotional? Some people don't just pass through our lives. They leave a mark so deep that it feels impossible to forget them. Even after time has passed, even after we've told ourselves we've moved on, their presence lingers like an unfinished sentence. Why does this happen? Why do some emotional bonds seem unbreakable, even when we consciously try to let go? Carl Jung believed that emotional connections are not just psychological experiences. They become embedded in the unconscious, shaping our thoughts, behaviors, and even our sense of identity. When an emotional bond is left unresolved, it continues to exert a quiet but powerful influence over our mind. It's as if part of our psyche is still entangled with the other person, replaying old memories, searching for closure, or attempting to make sense of what remains unfinished. Neuroscience supports this idea. When we form a deep emotional attachment, our brain creates neural pathways that associate that person with feelings of safety, love, or even pain. These neural circuits do not simply disappear when a relationship ends. Instead, they remain active, lighting up when triggered by a familiar scent, a song, or even a fleeting memory. This is why certain people stay in our minds. Our brain has physically wired them into our emotional landscape. The more intense the bond, the stronger these neural connections become, making it difficult to turn off our thoughts about them. If an emotional experience is unresolved, whether due to heartbreak, regret, or unfinished business, it can become a loop in the unconscious, replaying itself in an attempt to find resolution. The mind keeps revisiting the past, not out of nostalgia, but because it is searching for something, an answer, an understanding, a sense of closure that was never given. But emotional bonds are not just neurological. They are deeply rooted in the unconscious, where unprocessed emotions live. When we refuse to confront certain feelings, they don't simply vanish. They become psychic residue, influencing us in ways we don't fully realize. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to haunt you, even when they are no longer in your life? This is because on some level, a part of you is still emotionally engaged with them. Jung believed that unresolved emotions act like unfinished psychological contracts. Until we acknowledge and process them, they continue to demand our attention. Sometimes we hold on because of what that person represented: a lost version of ourselves, an unfulfilled dream, a hope that was never realized. In this way, the attachment is not just about them. It is about what they symbolize within our own psyche. So, how do we break free from these unresolved emotional bonds? The first step is recognizing that our thoughts about someone are often not about that person at all, but about something deeper within us. What emotions are still unprocessed? What lessons remain unlearned? What part of ourselves is still tied to that connection? Letting go is not about forgetting. It is about integration. It is about allowing ourselves to fully feel, process, and accept what was, so that it no longer controls us from the shadows. When we do this, the mind no longer needs to obsess, because the lesson has been absorbed. But sometimes, just when we think we are moving on, the universe seems to send us signs, coincidences that feel too meaningful to ignore. What if these aren't just accidents? What if they are something more? There are moments in life when everything seems to align, as if the universe itself is pointing you toward a specific person or situation. These occurrences might feel like nothing more than chance, but deep down, there's a sense that they carry a greater meaning. Carl Jung called this phenomenon synchronicity, the experience of meaningful coincidences that go beyond the ordinary flow of events. It's the sense that the threads of our lives are somehow woven together by forces we can't fully comprehend, yet can't help but feel. Synchronicity isn't just about random events lining up. It's about the feeling that something deeply significant is unfolding right before your eyes. When you find yourself bombarded by reminders of someone you've been thinking about, or when a series of events occur that seem too perfectly timed to be coincidence, your unconscious might be signaling that a deeper connection exists. These coincidences often arise at times of emotional intensity, when your mind is occupied with unresolved emotions, unspoken desires, or unfinished business. The universe seems to respond, offering you clues, nudging you back toward that person, or showing you a new layer of the emotional connection that still lingers in your psyche. Jung believed that these experiences were not simply random, but rather that they revealed an underlying order within the chaos of life. The people who occupy your thoughts may not just be there by chance. They might represent something profound within your personal journey. Synchronicity, in this sense, is more than just a series of coincidences. It is the unfolding of events that reflect a deeper, unconscious connection. Perhaps the universe is reminding you that these relationships are not mere happenstance, but meaningful parts of your own psychological growth. Every event, every person, every feeling has significance, even if it's not immediately clear to you. When synchronicities happen, it's often a call to pay attention, to take notice of the deeper patterns in your life. The signs you're seeing may not always make logical sense, but they carry emotional and symbolic weight. They are a reflection of the connections between your inner world and the outer reality you're experiencing. Perhaps the person you can't stop thinking about isn't just a figure from your past. They may symbolize something in your own psyche that's ready to be recognized or healed. The invisible thread between you and them is woven with meaning, and synchronicity acts as a gentle reminder to pay attention, to look deeper, and to trust that there is a purpose in these mysterious connections. At times, these meaningful events might lead us to question, is it truly all coincidence, or is there a connection beyond the surface? These signs don't always provide clear answers, but they invite us to be curious about the possibility that there is something more to the people who stay in our minds, something that speaks to a larger pattern we have yet to fully understand. Sometimes, the people who stay on your mind aren't just individuals. They evolve into something much larger, taking on a symbolic significance in your unconscious. These people become archetypes, universal figures that represent deeper parts of our psyche and our life experiences. They are no longer merely people, but representations of qualities, desires, or unresolved aspects of ourselves. According to Carl Jung, archetypes are primal images, inherited from our shared human experience that shape our perceptions and behavior. They serve as blueprints for understanding different dimensions of the self, and when someone occupies your thoughts persistently, they may be playing the role of an archetype within your mind. Take, for example, the figure of the mentor, the wise guide who helps you navigate challenges and grows you in ways you hadn't imagined. Perhaps someone in your life took on that role, and their presence in your thoughts is more about the wisdom they imparted, rather than their individual characteristics. Or maybe it's the lover, representing not only romantic attachment, but also a desire for deep connection, vulnerability, and self-expression. This person, while real, may embody a part of your psyche that is seeking love, acceptance, or intimacy in a way that hasn't been fully explored. When people turn into archetypes in your unconscious, they stop being just people. They become vessels of personal transformation. Jung believed that archetypes are formed through the interactions between our inner world and the outer world, shaping how we relate to others and, ultimately, to ourselves. As we move through life, we encounter different archetypal figures, each one influencing the course of our personal development. The person who constantly occupies your thoughts might be acting as a mirror, reflecting back a role that you're subconsciously trying to play out. They may represent an aspect of your own growth, or even a quality you are learning to integrate into your life. Whether they appear as the warrior challenging your limits, the victim triggering feelings of powerlessness, or the shadow confronting your darker self, they are all trying to teach you something about who you are and who you are becoming. But what happens when a real person becomes frozen in the role of an archetype? When we idealize someone to the point that they no longer feel human but rather symbolic? In these cases, we lose sight of their individuality and instead project a set of expectations and desires onto them. This is where the danger lies. When the person in your mind is no longer allowed to be a full, complex human being, but becomes an archetype in your psyche, you may find it hard to accept their flaws, their imperfections, or their inevitable changes. This projection often leads to disappointment, as the person can never truly live up to the idealized version you've created. However, the true lesson lies in recognizing this pattern and learning to embrace the complexity of others and ourselves, instead of relying on simplistic, one-dimensional images. The people who stay in our thoughts aren't just part of our past. They often play a crucial role in shaping our inner world. When you can recognize that someone has become an archetype in your psyche, you gain the power to transform your relationship with them and with the parts of yourself that they represent. The question becomes, what is it about this person that is calling you to grow? And how can you use this insight to move closer to your authentic self? When someone is constantly occupying your thoughts, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, as though your mind is trapped in a loop of endless contemplation. The first step to freeing yourself from this mental prison is to understand that these persistent thoughts are not necessarily a sign of weakness or obsession. They are an invitation to explore deeper layers of your own psyche, to understand why this person continues to linger, and to uncover the unresolved emotions and attachments that are keeping you tethered to them. Carl Jung's concept of individuation provides a powerful framework for this process. Individuation is the journey toward integrating all parts of the self, both light and dark, conscious and unconscious. It is about facing the aspects of yourself that have been neglected or repressed and allowing them to come into the light. When someone remains in your thoughts, it's often because they are connected to a part of you that has yet to be fully acknowledged or understood. The key to freeing your mind begins with self-awareness. Take time to reflect on why this person occupies such a prominent place in your mind. What feelings arise when you think about them? Are there unresolved emotions, unmet needs, or unconscious projections at play? Perhaps they represent something you have not yet fully processed. Pain, longing, regret, or even something positive like admiration or unfulfilled potential. Understanding these emotions is the first step in unraveling the mental hold they have over you. Journaling, meditation, or even deep self-inquiry can help you identify the root of your obsession. Once you understand the underlying cause, you can begin to consciously release the emotional charge that keeps pulling your thoughts back to them. Another important step is learning to detach emotionally. This doesn't mean erasing the person from your life or pretending they didn't matter. It means shifting your focus from obsessive thinking to emotional neutrality. Detachment allows you to regain your inner peace without being controlled by the unresolved emotions tied to that person. One powerful method of detachment is through the practice of mindfulness, being present with your thoughts and emotions without judgment. Rather than getting lost in a narrative about this person, observe your thoughts as they arise and let them pass, like clouds in the sky. With practice, you can create space between yourself and the emotions that once felt all-consuming. Finally, freeing your mind also involves embracing the process of healing and growth. Every experience, even those that involve lingering thoughts about someone, is an opportunity for personal transformation. The work of individuation asks us to confront our shadows, the parts of ourselves we've hidden or neglected, and integrate them into our whole being. If someone continues to haunt your thoughts, it may be because they represent an unresolved piece of your inner puzzle. Perhaps they embody a quality you wish to develop, a wound you haven't healed, or a lesson you've yet to learn. Instead of fighting these thoughts, allow them to guide you toward deeper self-awareness and emotional clarity. Through this process, you transform what was once a source of pain or obsession into a pathway toward personal growth and emotional balance. When you begin to understand the deeper layers of your mind, you regain the ability to choose your emotional focus, to decide which thoughts deserve your attention, and to redirect your energy toward growth. The person who once dominated your thoughts may still hold a place in your heart, but they no longer have the power to control your mind. Through self-awareness, detachment, and healing, you can free yourself from the grip of obsessive thoughts and return to a place of emotional equilibrium where your true self can flourish. As we've explored today, the people who stay on our minds are not just lingering in our thoughts by accident. They carry messages, lessons, and reflections of deeper parts of ourselves that are asking for attention. By understanding the unconscious connections, projections, emotional bonds, and archetypes at play, we can free ourselves from the patterns that hold us back and regain emotional balance. Remember, growth is a journey, and every experience, no matter how challenging, is an opportunity to become a more complete version of yourself. If you found value in this exploration of the mind, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, as it helps others discover this transformative content. Don't forget to subscribe to Mirror of Being, because we dive deep into the fascinating realms of psychology, philosophy, and personal growth every single day. Turn on the notifications so you never miss a chance to awaken more of your true self. Until next time, keep reflecting, keep growing, and keep embracing the journey within.